Somewhere deep within the untouched rainforests of South America, an entire city made of gold is said to have existed, a place so unimaginably wealthy that kings would seem poor in comparison. Thousands searched for it. Thousands died looking for it. Yet after more than 500 years, no one has ever found it. But what if the greatest treasure in history was never actually a city? What if the world's most famous lost civilization began with one incredible misunderstanding? This is the mysterious story of El Dorado. The 16th century was an age unlike any the world had ever seen. European explorers were crossing oceans that had once seemed impossible to navigate. Every voyage promised unimaginable riches, unknown civilizations, and opportunities that could transform ordinary men into legends. Spain had just conquered vast territories in the Americas. The astonishing wealth taken from the mighty Aztec and Inca empires shocked Europe beyond imagination. Ship after ship returned across the Atlantic carrying enormous quantities of gold, silver, emeralds, and priceless artifacts. These discoveries changed everything. If two great empires overflowing with treasure had already been found, who could say there wasn't another? Perhaps somewhere beyond the towering Andes Mountains, beyond the endless rivers, beyond jungles so dense that sunlight barely touched the ground, another kingdom of unimaginable wealth still waited. A kingdom unlike any ever seen before. A kingdom known only by a single mysterious name, El Dorado. Ironically, El Dorado did not begin as a city. It did not begin as a kingdom. And it certainly did not begin as a civilization built entirely from gold. In fact, the earliest meaning of El Dorado simply translated to the Gilded One or the Golden Man. To understand how this legend was born, we must travel to the high plateaus of modern-day Colombia, where the indigenous Muisca people lived centuries before European explorers ever arrived. Unlike the Aztecs or the Incas, the Muisca did not build massive stone cities or giant pyramids. Instead, they formed a sophisticated society of skilled farmers, merchants, goldsmiths, and spiritual leaders. Gold, however, held a very different meaning to them than it did to Europeans. For the Spanish conquistadors, gold represented power, wealth, and political influence. For the Muisca, gold represented something far more sacred. It symbolized the divine. It connected humanity with the gods. Rather than storing gold in vaults or using it as currency, they crafted breathtaking ceremonial objects. Delicate figures, intricate jewelry, elaborate masks, and sacred offerings designed not for kings, but for spirits. One ceremony in particular would eventually become the foundation of one of history's greatest myths. Whenever a new chief assumed leadership, an extraordinary ritual reportedly took place at a remote mountain lake. According to later Spanish accounts, the future ruler covered his entire body with a fine layer of golden dust until he shimmered brilliantly beneath the rising sun. Standing aboard a ceremonial raft, surrounded by priests carrying magnificent treasures, he drifted silently toward the center of the sacred lake. As prayers echoed across the water, gold, emeralds, jewels, and priceless offerings were cast into the depths below as gifts to the gods. Finally, the golden ruler himself entered the water. When he emerged, the gold dust had disappeared. His transformation was complete. He was now the rightful leader. This remarkable ceremony reportedly took place at Lake Guatavita, located northeast of present-day Bogotá. For generations, it remained a sacred tradition among the Muisca. Had this story remained within indigenous communities, history might have unfolded very differently. But stories have a way of changing as they travel. When Spanish explorers first heard whispers of this ritual, they struggled to understand it through the lens of their own culture. Every retelling exaggerated the previous one. A man covered in gold became a king. The king became the ruler of a wealthy nation. That nation became a kingdom overflowing with treasure. Eventually, the kingdom transformed into a magnificent city where gold covered buildings, temples, streets, and palaces. The legend evolved faster than facts could keep pace. And once imagination entered the story, reality never stood a chance. Europe became obsessed. Maps began showing mysterious cities that no explorer had ever actually seen. Rumors spread through royal courts. Merchants repeated unbelievable stories. Priests wrote speculative accounts. Adventurers claimed that entire civilizations waited just beyond the next mountain range. Some insisted that fountains flowed with liquid gold. Others described temples whose walls shone like the morning sun. Every failed expedition only strengthened the mystery. After all, if no one had found El Dorado, perhaps they simply hadn't searched far enough. Kings eagerly financed increasingly dangerous expeditions. The promise of unimaginable wealth was simply too great to ignore. For ambitious young conquistadors, El Dorado represented far more than treasure. It offered eternal fame, power, titles, noble status, place in history. If Hernán Cortés had conquered the Aztecs, if Francisco Pizarro had defeated the Incas, who would become the man who discovered El Dorado? Across Europe, countless fortune seekers believed they could be that man. Few paused to ask a more important question. Did El Dorado actually exist? Or had the legend already grown beyond reality? The geography of South America made answering that question almost impossible. Even today, the Amazon rainforest covers more than 2 million square miles. It contains some of the planet's most inaccessible wilderness. Towering mountains, flooded forests, venomous snakes, jaguars, poisonous insects, malaria, deadly rivers, extreme humidity. For 16th century explorers carrying heavy armor and primitive weapons, the rainforest became an enemy unlike any battlefield. Entire expeditions vanished without explanation. Supplies disappeared, horses died, food spoiled, disease spread relentlessly, starvation became common. Men who survived often reported strange sounds echoing through the jungle. Unfamiliar ruins hidden beneath thick vegetation. Native villages that appeared and disappeared almost like ghosts. Each mysterious encounter only fueled belief that a wealthy civilization lay just beyond reach. Ironically, every hardship seemed to prove the legend. The more difficult the journey became, the more convinced explorers were that incredible riches must surely await those who survived. Psychologists today recognize this as a powerful cognitive bias. When people invest enormous time, suffering, and sacrifice into pursuing a goal, abandoning the search becomes psychologically difficult. Instead, they double down. The Spanish explorers did exactly that. Failure became evidence that success was close. Death became proof that the treasure was worth finding. The legend consumed reason itself. Meanwhile, indigenous communities watched as wave after wave of heavily armed strangers marched deeper into territories they barely understood. Many tribes had never seen Europeans before. Some attempted peaceful trade. Others fled. Many resisted. Miscommunication became inevitable. Language barriers transformed ordinary conversations into extraordinary rumors. A misunderstood gesture could become a story about hidden kingdoms. A ceremonial object became evidence of limitless wealth. A local chief became emperor of an invisible empire. Every encounter produced another clue, or at least, what the explorers believed was another clue. Perhaps the greatest irony of the El Dorado legend is this: there really was gold. A tremendous amount of it. Archaeologists have uncovered countless magnificent Muisca gold artifacts, demonstrating extraordinary craftsmanship and spiritual significance. Yet these objects were never evidence of a hidden golden city. They reflected an advanced culture whose relationship with gold was profoundly different from Europe's obsession with wealth. The conquistadors were asking the wrong question from the very beginning. Instead of trying to understand an unfamiliar civilization, they searched only for treasure. And because they searched for treasure, they transformed a sacred ritual into history's most enduring myth. Little did they know, the greatest expeditions had not even begun. Soon, some of Europe's most fearless explorers would gamble everything in pursuit of El Dorado. Thousands of soldiers would disappear into the Amazon. Entire fortunes would be destroyed. Powerful kingdoms would collapse, and countless lives would be sacrificed, all in pursuit of a city that may never have existed at all. By the middle of the 16th century, The legend of El Dorado had spread across Europe like wildfire. Kings believed it, soldiers dreamed of it, merchants invested in it, priests wrote about it, and thousands of ambitious men were willing to risk everything for the chance to discover a city that no one had ever seen. What followed would become one of the most dangerous treasure hunts in human history. For the Spanish conquistadors, the conquest of the Aztec and Inca empires had created a dangerous illusion. Both civilizations had once seemed impossible to find, yet they had proven real. Both possessed unimaginable wealth. Both had eventually fallen. So why couldn't there be another empire hidden deeper inside South America? To the explorers, El Dorado wasn't simply a legend. It was a logical conclusion. If incredible wealth had already been discovered twice, surely history could repeat itself. The only challenge was finding it first. One expedition after another disappeared into the vast interior of the continent. Some followed rivers that stretched for thousands of miles. Others crossed mountain ranges that few Europeans had ever seen. Many entered dense jungles where every step became a battle against nature itself. The rainforest was unlike anything they had experienced in Europe. The air was suffocating. The ground swallowed horses. Constant rain soaked clothing until it began to rot. Food spoiled within days. Steel armor became unbearably heavy. Mosquitoes attacked without mercy. Venomous snakes hid beneath fallen leaves. Poison dart frogs, jaguars, caimans, giant anacondas, and deadly diseases turned every mile into a struggle for survival. But the greatest enemy wasn't the jungle. It was hope. Every rumor renewed their determination. Every village offered another story. Every guide pointed toward another mountain, another river, another hidden kingdom. The destination always seemed just a little farther away. As the years passed, the legend became even more elaborate. Some accounts claimed that El Dorado contained temples covered entirely in gold. Others insisted that entire streets glittered in sunlight. Some believed the king dined from solid gold plates before throwing them away because the kingdom possessed more gold than it could ever use. No story sounded too impossible. In Europe, these tales grew more extravagant with every retelling. Among the many men consumed by the legend was a ruthless conquistador named Gonzalo Pizarro. He was the younger half-brother of Francisco Pizarro, the conqueror of the Inca Empire. Having witnessed the immense wealth taken from Peru, Gonzalo believed another rich civilization must exist somewhere east of the Andes. In 1541, he assembled one of the largest expeditions ever organized in South America. More than 200 Spanish soldiers marched alongside thousands of indigenous porters, servants, and enslaved laborers. They brought horses, dogs trained for war, weapons, supplies, and enough confidence to believe they would soon become the richest men in history. Reality shattered those dreams almost immediately. Crossing the Andes proved devastating. Snow-covered mountain passes killed both men and animals. Once they descended into the Amazon basin, conditions became even worse. The jungle seemed endless. Weeks turned into months. Food disappeared. Leather saddles were boiled into soup. Men ate tree bark, wild plants, even their own horses. Many starved. Others succumbed to tropical diseases. Some simply vanished into the forest. Yet Gonzalo refused to turn back. He believed failure meant the treasure had to be close. As supplies dwindled, Gonzalo made a desperate decision. He ordered one of his officers, Francisco de Orellana, to take a small group downstream in search of food. The mission seemed simple: find provisions, return quickly. Instead, history took an unexpected turn. Powerful river currents carried Orellana's men farther and farther away. Returning upstream became nearly impossible. Facing starvation, Orellana chose to continue forward rather than attempt the impossible journey back. That decision changed history forever. His expedition became the first known European voyage to navigate the entire length of the Amazon River. The river stretched farther than anyone had imagined. Thousands of miles of endless water, countless tributaries, dense forests extending beyond the horizon. Villages appeared unexpectedly along the riverbanks. Some welcomed the strangers. Others attacked immediately. The Europeans described fierce battles with indigenous warriors using poisoned arrows capable of killing within minutes. One encounter left such a strong impression that Orellana compared some female warriors to the legendary Amazons of Greek mythology. It was this comparison that eventually gave the river its modern name, the Amazon. Ironically, the expedition had failed to find El Dorado. Yet it had revealed something almost as astonishing: the largest river system on Earth. Back in Europe, however, facts became mixed with fantasy once again. Reports from surviving explorers described enormous rivers, large indigenous settlements, rich agricultural lands, skilled craftsmen. By the time these stories reached Spain, they had evolved. Large villages became magnificent cities. Gold ornaments became limitless treasure. Local chiefs became emperors. The legend grew stronger despite the complete absence of evidence. Failure was no longer viewed as proof that El Dorado didn't exist. Instead, it became proof that explorers simply hadn't reached the right location. Over the following decades, dozens of expeditions followed. Many were privately funded. Others received support from the Spanish crown. Some explorers entered modern-day Colombia. Others searched Venezuela. Some pushed into Ecuador. Others wandered through Peru, Guyana, Brazil, and the Orinoco Basin. Every region became the true location of El Dorado. Every failed expedition simply moved the legend somewhere else. It was like chasing a mirage across an entire continent. Whenever one place was explored, the city supposedly existed beyond the next mountain, the next river, the next unexplored valley. El Dorado was always just out of reach. The obsession wasn't limited to Spain. News of the legendary Golden Kingdom spread across Europe. Soon, English, German, Portuguese, and Dutch adventurers joined the search. Among the most famous was the English courtier and explorer Sir Walter Raleigh. Unlike many conquistadors, Raleigh approached the legend with careful planning and political ambition. England sought to challenge Spanish dominance in the Americas. Finding El Dorado would not only bring unimaginable wealth, it would shift the balance of global power. In 1595, Raleigh sailed to present-day Guyana. His goal was simple: reach the legendary Golden Empire before Spain did. Raleigh gathered information from indigenous guides. He mapped rivers, interviewed local leaders, collected every rumor he could find. Eventually, he became convinced that El Dorado existed near the highlands surrounding the Great Lake Parim, a vast inland sea that appeared on European maps for centuries despite never existing. When Raleigh returned to England, he published a dramatic account of his expedition. He described an incredibly wealthy empire waiting to be conquered. Although he admitted he had never actually reached the city, his vivid descriptions convinced many readers that success was only a matter of time. The book reignited Europe's obsession. Investors poured money into new expeditions. Young adventurers volunteered eagerly. Once again, hope proved stronger than evidence. Meanwhile, thousands continued paying the ultimate price. Entire expeditions disappeared. Ships sank. Disease spread relentlessly. Conflicts erupted with indigenous communities defending their lands. Many native societies suffered violence, enslavement, and displacement because outsiders believed unimaginable treasure lay hidden nearby. The search for El Dorado became more than a quest for gold. It became one of the driving forces behind the exploration and exploitation of northern South America. Ironically, many explorers died without realizing they had already witnessed something extraordinary. The Amazon itself, its biodiversity, its immense river system, its sophisticated indigenous cultures. These discoveries would eventually reshape humanity's understanding of geography and ecology. Yet at the time, most explorers dismissed them as disappointments because they weren't made of gold. Their expectations blinded them to reality. By the early 17th century, cracks had begun to appear in the legend. Expedition after expedition returned empty-handed. No golden city, no golden palace, no golden streets, only exhausted survivors. Some historians began questioning whether El Dorado had ever been a place at all. Could generations of explorers have misunderstood indigenous traditions? Had centuries of rumor transformed a ceremonial ritual into an impossible dream? These questions marked the beginning of a remarkable shift. The search was no longer only about finding treasure. It became about discovering the truth. Yet, despite growing skepticism, one mystery refused to disappear. If El Dorado was merely a myth, why did so many independent indigenous stories speak of sacred lakes, ancient offerings, and extraordinary quantities of gold? Perhaps the explorers had misunderstood everything. Or perhaps, hidden beneath centuries of exaggeration, a small piece of the legend was actually true. For more than 5 centuries, explorers searched for a city of gold. They crossed mountains, mapped rivers, and disappeared into the world's largest rainforest. Yet no golden city was ever found. Does that mean El Dorado was simply a myth? Or did history hide a far more fascinating truth? By the beginning of the 17th century, confidence in El Dorado had begun to fade. The greatest explorers of Europe had failed. The Spanish crown had spent enormous fortunes. Thousands of soldiers, adventurers, missionaries, and indigenous allies had lost their lives. Still, no golden city, no magnificent palace, no streets paved with gold. For many scholars, the conclusion seemed obvious. El Dorado had never existed. It was merely another legend, an irresistible story born from greed, hope, and imagination. Yet history had one more surprise waiting. Because while explorers searched for a city, archaeologists would eventually uncover evidence that the legend had been inspired by something very real. The key to solving the mystery lay high in the Colombian Andes. There, surrounded by mist-covered mountains, sat a nearly perfect circular lake known as Lake Guatavita. For centuries, local indigenous communities had regarded the lake as sacred. Spanish conquistadors heard stories that priceless treasures rested beneath its waters. Unlike rumors of hidden cities, this claim seemed possible. If ceremonial offerings had truly been thrown into the lake for generations, some of those treasures might still remain. Naturally, treasure hunters became obsessed. The first serious attempts to recover gold from Lake Guatavita began only decades after the Spanish conquest. In the late 1500s, groups of workers attempted an astonishing engineering project. Instead of diving into the lake, they tried draining it. Thousands of indigenous laborers were forced to dig a massive channel through the crater wall. The plan was simple: lower the water level, expose the lakebed, collect the treasure. It almost worked. The water level dropped significantly. Mud-covered artifacts began to appear. Small quantities of gold were recovered. Emeralds were found. Ceremonial objects emerged from the soft lakebed. But before the lake could be completely drained, the walls collapsed. Many workers were killed. The project failed. Centuries later, others tried again. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, investors from Europe and North America financed even more ambitious operations. Steam-powered pumps, modern excavation equipment, professional engineers. Every generation believed it possessed the technology that previous treasure hunters lacked. Again, the water level fell. Again, gold artifacts appeared. Again, the greatest treasures remained unreachable beneath thick layers of hardened mud. By the time excavation became technically possible, many priceless objects had already become permanently embedded beneath centuries of sediment. Ironically, the harder people searched for treasure, the more they risked destroying the very archaeological evidence they hoped to recover. Then came one of the most remarkable discoveries ever made. In 1969, inside a small cave near Bogota, farmers discovered an extraordinary golden artifact. Unlike ordinary jewelry, this object appeared to tell a story. Known today as the Muisca raft, it depicts a ruler standing upon a ceremonial raft surrounded by attendants. The central figure appears covered in ornaments while priests accompany him carrying ritual offerings. To archaeologists, the meaning was immediately clear. Here was physical evidence supporting Spanish descriptions written more than 4 centuries earlier. The famous ceremony had almost certainly taken place. The golden man, the offerings, the sacred raft, They were not inventions. They were part of an authentic religious tradition practiced by the Muisca civilization. For the first time, history and legend intersected. The discovery changed how historians viewed El Dorado. Perhaps European explorers had misunderstood what indigenous people were trying to describe. Imagine hearing an unfamiliar language, learning through translators, interpreting foreign religious customs using your own beliefs. Small misunderstandings become larger ones. A sacred ceremony becomes a royal coronation. A ruler covered in gold becomes the richest king alive. A lake filled with offerings becomes an entire kingdom overflowing with treasure. Generation after generation, the misunderstanding grows. Eventually, the original story disappears beneath layers of exaggeration. Modern archaeology paints a fascinating picture of the Muisca people. They were among the most skilled goldsmiths in pre-Columbian America. Using sophisticated casting techniques, they produced incredibly detailed figures, masks, necklaces, pendants, and ceremonial objects. Many of these masterpieces survive today in museums. Ironically, the value of these artifacts was never measured by their weight in gold. To the Muisca, gold carried spiritual meaning. It symbolized the power of the sun, the divine, the connection between humanity and the supernatural. Spanish conquistadors saw wealth. The Muisca saw faith. Two civilizations looked at the same metal and saw entirely different worlds. But even as historians solved one mystery, another emerged. Recent archaeological discoveries throughout the Amazon have challenged long-held assumptions about the rainforest itself. For centuries, scholars believed the Amazon had always been sparsely populated. Dense jungle seemed unsuitable for large civilizations. Today, that view is rapidly changing. Using technologies such as LiDAR laser scanning capable of revealing structures hidden beneath thick forest canopies, researchers have discovered evidence of vast ancient settlements across parts of Brazil, Bolivia, Ecuador, and other regions of the Amazon basin. Hidden beneath the trees lie ancient roads, canals, agricultural systems, massive earthworks, fortified villages, and carefully planned communities connected across enormous distances. Some settlements may have supported tens of thousands of people. Others reveal sophisticated engineering once thought impossible in tropical rainforest environments. These discoveries do not prove El Dorado existed, but they demonstrate something equally remarkable. The Amazon was never an empty wilderness. It was home to complex societies whose achievements remained hidden for centuries beneath vegetation. In that sense, the explorers were not entirely wrong. Great civilizations did exist. They simply weren't cities built from gold. Satellite imagery continues revealing unknown archaeological sites every year. Researchers uncover forgotten ceremonial centers, ancient geometric earthworks, long-distance trade networks, evidence of intensive farming that transformed entire landscapes. Every discovery reminds us how much remains hidden beneath the rainforest. The Amazon still holds countless secrets, not because they are magical, but because nature is incredibly effective at reclaiming abandoned places. Within only a few generations, forests can erase roads, buildings, and entire settlements from view. What appears untouched today may once have been filled with human life. So, was El Dorado real? The answer depends entirely on how we define it. If we imagine a city with golden walls, golden streets, and limitless treasure, the evidence says no. No archaeological excavation has uncovered such a place. No historical document confirms its existence. No scientific expedition has found a lost metropolis of gold. But if El Dorado refers to the Golden Man, the sacred rituals of the Muisca, the offerings resting beneath Lake Guatavita, then yes, the legend was rooted in reality. A genuine ceremony inspired centuries of misunderstanding. One cultural tradition evolved into the greatest treasure myth the world has ever known. Perhaps the true treasure was never gold at all. It was curiosity. The legend inspired explorers to map unknown rivers, chart mountain ranges, document new species, expand humanity's understanding of an entire continent. Even failed expeditions transformed geography forever. The search for El Dorado led directly to the exploration of the Amazon, one of Earth's greatest natural wonders. History is full of strange paradoxes. People searching for one thing often discover something far more valuable. Even today, the legend refuses to die. Every few years, someone claims to have found mysterious ruins. Satellite images spark fresh speculation. Ancient maps reappear online. Videos promise shocking discoveries. The mystery captures millions of imaginations because it speaks to something deeply human. The hope that somewhere, beyond the edges of the known world, a forgotten secret still waits. Not necessarily a city of gold, but proof that history still has stories left to tell. Perhaps that is why El Dorado has survived for more than 500 years. Not because it was ever found, but because it represents the eternal human desire to believe that impossible things might still exist. The greatest legends are not remembered because they are true. They endure because they inspire generations to keep asking questions. And sometimes, the journey toward the truth becomes more extraordinary than the treasure itself.